What have you been up to at work? What you've been putting the cat amongst the pigeons at work, Vin? You've been going around telling everyone, let's make Ubisoft free to play. Let's see what that.
I have. It was all me. Like, I apologize.
It was your
like
idea,
this,
wasn't it?
Yeah. I planted the seed. I figured, you know what? It's time. We need to switch over to free to play because it's the way forward. I've seen the light, and this is it.
But tell me about. All I've heard is that Ubisoft becoming free to play, and then the internet in one little corner of the internet's exploded, and I've just gone. That can't be it, because I'd see more than one article and it would be front page everywhere. So it's not happening, is it? It's not free to play.
No, it's not. I mean, this is the thing. Like, Ubisoft had what we call financial calls, which is they basically call their investors and tell them what's going on with the company and how awesome they're doing and how awesome the next year is going to be. Like, please give us more money, sort of thing. It's what happens when you're a business and you got stockholders. But during the financial meeting, it was sort of taken out of context, but there was a quote which was given, like what all these articles sort of picked up and what people on Twitter sort of honed in on, which was the fact that people started saying Ubisoft is, quote unquote anyway, Ubisoft is shifting away from its traditional strategy of releasing 3 to 4 premium AAA titles each year and plans to launch high-end free-to-play games for all of its biggest franchises. People took that and ran with it. They started saying Ubisoft is no longer making AAA games. They're only making free-to-play games. They're abandoning the AAA market and they're not making any single-player games anymore. It's all over. The world's going to end. Shelter your kids. They're coming to get them. All that sort of stuff.
The Absolutely death of Assassin's Creed. No more Assassin's Creed.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, people are like, oh, Assassin's Creed's going to be free-to-play by the end of the year and stuff like this. And it kind of... Right. Like, I was sitting back and just looking at this stuff like, you guys are insane. Like, how the hell did you come up with this?
So you just have to buy all the skins, or I don't, yeah,
right, stuff like that. Which obviously this was a misquote, and it was kind of interesting to see all of the like the different outlets sort of scramble and have to do updates and stuff after there was clarifications put out to say, like, no, that's not what we meant whatsoever. So Ubisoft told, like, this one came from videogameschronicle.com, like, never heard of them. Ubisoft has told Video Games Chronicle that free-to-play push does not mean that they will release less premium AAA games. It just means that they're expanding more into free-to-play, which is how it should have been perceived, which is they're still going to put out the same amount of games. We're just adding more to the pile, if that makes sense, which is going to be the free-to-play stuff.
The wording was a bit misleading.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I'd have read that, I'd have gone, they mean they're going to start doing free-to-play games.
Yeah. I mean and clickbait as well. Like, there was a combination of a load of, like, weird stuff going on, but what ultimately means is that Ubisoft are still going to be making the same, like, type of games, but they're also going to be expanding into other stuff as well and probably growing the company, like, if anything. Yeah. So it means more jobs for developers as well. So kind of good news. But people obviously have this weird stigma against free-to-play games. So I sort of get, like, the negativity that came around from it as well. But just the clarification is important, I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, to me, it just smacks of, the world's largest video game company in one of the world's most fastest growing industries, one of the fastest, most expanding and technologically most, evolving things is expanding and growing. And okay, that sounds about right. They'd be stupid not to.
Yeah.
So that's how that's my initial reaction. So now you've got that reaction. That's my reaction to that.
Fair enough.
That's
I mean, the thing that was, it was just fascinating to see people's overreactions, I guess. Like, that's the better way to look at it, because we're very much in this weird vacuum where people that are covering this stuff are, like, hyper into, like, AAA games, and, like, we constantly look at, this game sold 1 million to 10 million units, and we're constantly in this pocket of games which we're talking about, which is games like The Last of Us, like Ghost of Tsushima, like Spider-Man. They're always in this same sort of frame of AAA games, is what we call them.
Yeah.
But what we don't really realize is that free-to-play is now completely taken over the industry to the point that it's way bigger than anyone sort of really realizes. Like, free-to-play makes up about, like, they've sort of estimated over the past year that free-to-play makes up about 70% of the games industry now. 70. So 30% of the industry is now for the AAA sort of system. So the fact that more studios haven't flipped completely to free to play is sort of astounding to me as it is. So,
well, it's new. It's still new. It's still in its infancy as a genre, I guess you could say, within the games industry. Like,
I think that's fair.
It's its own genre now. It's like established. It used to be just like, oh, we'll just do this. We won't spend as much time, effort, or energy into this game, and it'll be a free to play. But kids kept buying skins, which is, to me, which is one of the biggest problems with a free to play game, is that it's the buy to win aspect, which you can't get away from when you're playing something like a competitive FPS, where
that's fair. Yeah.
What color you are will determine how well a human's eye can perceive it against the background. It's just that's just physics and facts, and that's just humans. So
I mean, you say that, but like the top selling like pieces of skin are like the ultraviolet pink things. So like they're just like making themselves bigger targets, which is funny. Like, it's hilarious to me. But yeah, the thing that I find fascinating, like I've been watching a lot of videos and people reacting to this news, quote unquote, of just like Ubisoft moving more into free to play, and they've already announced like some initiatives into this, which is the new Division game, which has already been announced. That's going to be a free to play game, which is the third game is just going to be a free to play, which it sort of fits in that model, I guess. Like, it's a looter shooter, like you're picking stuff up and stuff. So it kind of makes sense, and there's a lot of people that were asking for that anyway. So I get it. Like I'll probably play it. I'll probably be into it as well. But it's just fascinating, like, though, to see people overreacting to the negative side to this, as if their opinion, like, over the other 70% of the industry is more important. Yeah. Which I think it's really interesting dynamic that is starting to turn.
Never play free to play games have a real problem with free to play games.
Right.
And it doesn't affect their AAA games at all.
And even if it does, like who are they to say that their opinion, which is within the 30% and not the 70, is more important than the other 70? Because at the end of the day, these are companies that are trying to survive, trying to grow, trying to expand. And if more people are playing free to play games, like, why wouldn't they expand into that? Like, it just makes sense. Like, I don't agree with it. Like, I hate free to play games. I'm just not into that sort of model of game. I don't really find that attractive as a gamer. I like playing games which have a start, a middle, and an end. I see credits, I enjoy it. Like, wow, that was a great experience. Put it to one side. I'll replay it in a couple of years. It'll be great. I don't want to play games forever. Like, I don't want to play the same game without credits just over and over and over again. Like, I'm just not that sort of gamer. So I understand like the negativity, but like, we've got to like remove this sort of presumption that like that 30% opinion of the industry is more important than the 70, because it's not. Like, there's all these kids that are coming into the industry now that are playing all these games and absolutely loving them, and they're sat in that 70%. Like, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. Like, more free to play games. We love this.
I want my skins. I want my bright purple outfit to go with these kills that I'm doing. And it's like a status.
Who the hell are we to say
like fashion?
Wise, you know?
It's interesting. I mean, it's an expanding industry, and the population is growing. Therefore, there are more younger kids now than there were before, and so on and so on and so on. So the more kids get into games, and the more, because I think free-to-play games fits a younger model, like, more kids got the time, the budget is in the right place for them. It's social and of the moment. That all ticks the younger audience box for me. I think the stats will show the same thing as well. It's a lot of kids playing it. And so, why shouldn't there need to be catered for? And fair enough. They'll grow up, and their needs will change, and their time will change. They won't have as much time to play on video games like us. Like, time is precious. Smaller.
I guess that is
the smaller games I want to play. Like,
I guess that is the thing, though. A lot of people, like, whenever this sort of conversation comes around, like, our free to play is taken over. Like, I remember, like, 5-10 years ago, when everyone was like freaking out about the mobile games industry, and they thought, oh, this thing's going to take over, and there's going to be no more AAA games. It's going to swallow the whole industry, and we're never going to make like another like God of War or anything like that again. Obviously, that didn't happen. That's ridiculous. It just grew and expanded to accommodate both. And I think free to play is doing the same thing at this point as well. Like, we're still selling like these massive AAA games. Like, Assassin's Creed is doing really well. Like, Cyberpunk just sold 13 million units, even though it's an absolute bag of hot mess. Like we're selling these games like really, really well still, but like at the same time, 70% of the industry is still free to play outside of that. So the fact that these things are still coexisting, like I don't think there's any need to really worry that anything is gonna like quote unquote go away forever. You know, like there will be some obviously companies that do swing that way. Like we've seen that with Apex Legends, like the people that make Titanfall, like Respawn, they've pretty much switched completely to free to play. Yeah. And everyone's okay with that because the quality of Apex Legends is so high and everyone is enjoying it, who is playing it, who's into it, really love it. So like no one has any qualms with that. So as long as they're doing something good, I don't think it really matters. And I think Ubisoft expanding into that, if they can anyway, like that's another question if they ever can do that, because I think their biggest success, like the closest thing they've ever gotten to that is Siege, which I think there are like 70 million players or something, which is a ridiculous amount.
That's the other thing. It can be hit and miss, but I guess with the nature of free-to-play games, their budget is so much smaller than like a AAA game that
it's worth the risk as well.
It's worth the risk because if it tanks, you haven't spent that much money. Whereas if and especially in this market now, where we know that, like you say, Cyberpunk sold that 13 million, but if it was a great game, it would have got 13 million and probably 2 from us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, that could have been 15, 20 million easy. Yeah. Easy.
Like Ghost of Tsushima, that was one of the like a huge selling game, and it was a great game. So it shows that that you can sell games that are great, because we're living in this world where people think that you can release anything and it makes money, and what's the point? But there is a correlation between games that are well received and money. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, like Assassin's Creed, that was a huge game.
Yeah.
It's been well received, too big for us. Yeah. But there's a market for it. Absolutely. And they get bigger and bigger every year, and it sells a lot every year. So there's room for everyone, is basically it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it.
Your IP, that's just where it gets a bit tricky. Where if you start messing with people's beloved IPs and start changing them, people get upset. Like, Assassin's Creed, over the course of its lifetime, has gone to a place that doesn't resonate with me as much as the first 3. Mm-hmm. There are going to be the Titanfall fans that want a Titanfall 3 and don't want Apex Legends.
Yeah, and the question is, will they get it?
They're in the minority, though, aren't they?
Yeah,
because there's so many more people playing Apex Legends, and it's a money-generating business. It's not a charity, so
it's a bit too much money. Yeah, this is the thing. Like when you've got a studio and you can say, okay, split this team up that we've got into 10 little sections, right? Each one of those teams go off and try and make a free-to-play game. If 9 out of 10 of them games fail, and then the 10th one takes off, like, and that the success from that, because it's free to play, is just, we're talking different numbers. We're not talking like 1 million people, 2 million people, like a normal game that they would have made as an entire sort of unit as 10 people. You're talking about, okay, a free to play game takes off and it goes to 50 million. So it's worth the risk of you like messing up 9 times in a row to get to the 10th one. So like they can just keep doing this over and over again. I'm not like, I obviously, like I'm not that high up at Ubisoft. Like I have no idea if that is ever what they would do. But if that's the direction that the industry starts pushing into, like as a whole, like not just like our company or anywhere else, but like, could you blame them for doing it? You know, like that's the thing. Like if you've got the potential to make the next Fortnite or the next Minecraft or the next Apex Legends or something, then like is it worth the risk? Why wouldn't you? So
especially if the point of entry is so small,
right? So it's interesting to see where it's going to go.
So if you had that same company and you were making one AAA game, it can be hit and miss, can't it? And if you put all your chips on that one IP, then that's going to be.
And it happens, and you can fail like at making free to play like just as easy, like if not a lot faster and a lot harder. Actually, you can hit rock bottom pretty quick. I mean, Ubisoft had just learned that lesson from Hyperscape.
Yes,
which that game came out flash in the pan. A lot of people played it when it was released, but like our numbers just went straight down and everyone stopped playing it all at once pretty much. And it was like we just could not hold retention because there's just so much competition within that market as well. Like if you're talking about free to play FPS games. There's so many of them now, so many. Like it's hard to like hold anything within that market. So it's
then is the market saturated? So is that an option of, is that a reason not to do it? Like
this is because this is all new. Like we're sort of hitting this point where everyone is trying out free to play games. Everyone's trying to make a battle royale or one two sort of thing, and only a few of them are like breaking out above the sort of the crest of the hill. Like the fact that like we're just learning this sort of stuff as we go along. Like we don't know how this is going to turn out. We don't know who's going to be successful. We don't know if this is sustainable even. So it's going to be an interesting few years ahead of us.
Because I was playing Call of Duty Warzone, and that's like battle royale,
free to play.
And the gas comes in and it makes the map smaller. And I was just out of the loop with it. I was like, oh, it's just like Fortnite, and they were like, yeah, it's just like Fortnite. It's like, oh, okay, but it's Call of Duty, and it's like, interesting. Like it's different to my last Call of Duty, which is like Modern Warfare 2. Like totally different, like completely different games. So yeah, we're in that world at the moment. So I would prefer the older version of Call of Duty, I must say. Like
I think like anyone that is in their 30s would agree with that.
Is that nostalgia? Is that, why is that?
I think we're living in this world now where if you're a kid and you've got an iPad and you can start up Fortnite on your iPad and you can play it anywhere and you can do anything, it's all about accessibility. Like I'm pretty sure that's, like I keep hammering this home with people that have that conversation. Like I've talked about this with my wife as well, and I think it's just down to the accessibility of just being able to play these things absolutely anywhere. And the fact that they're free, the fact that the parents don't have to pay this massive barrier to entry of a new console, a game that is now going to be $70, I guess, like $70 in the US. And then they can start playing. Oh, that's before like the Xbox Live Gold or the PlayStation Plus account that you have to have just to play online. All of this sort of stuff. And they're just slowly getting stripped away. Like now you don't, like to play free-to-play games on Xbox, you don't need to have an Xbox Live account anymore. You don't need to do any of that. You can just play free-to-play games just on the system without any of that. They're stripping that away even further because now like a lot of these games you can stream and things like this, it's just becoming more and more accessible to these kids that are just like they don't have the money, they don't have the time, and you're just blowing out the market because you've got, instead of 10 million people that can afford a console versus the 100 million that can't afford a console but happen to have a phone or an iPad or an older console, or they've got a crappy PC that just manages to play whatever game they're playing. So a lot of it is to do with that, I think.
And it's funny how what you said before, where we thought the mobile game world was going to take over. It kind of has, but just in this context.
But that's, again, though, it hasn't taken over anything. Like it's definitely expanded out.
Yeah,
but there's still this pocket of like AAA games which the 30-year-olds are going to buy, and in 10 years' time, when the free-to-play market like expands out even further and it becomes 90%, there's still going to be that like this group of 40-year-olds in the middle that are just like, the next God of War got announced, like, and we're going to be them people, which is fine. Like it's good that they're still there and they're not like interfering with each other too much. And if it does get to the point where third parties, I think the only people that really are at risk in the long term, anyway, not the short term, because I think it's going to be a long time before it happens. But in the long term, I think third parties are going to be the ones that find success with free to play games, and they are going to just be like, we financially cannot sustain an industry where people are only buying 10 million of our games at once. Like, because it's just getting too big, it's getting too competitive. We just can't survive. Literally, we cannot survive. So we need to break out into these other type of games, which are the free-to-play games, especially if like 70% of the market is there. Like, I cannot blame anyone for wanting to go after that piece of pie. Like, it's gross. Yeah, it's about money. Yeah, you can attribute it to greed or whatever, but it's not. It's 70% of the market. Like, you can't not ignore that. It's too big.
Yeah, and of all the studios as well that's going to start doing this, and you think you put money on that could do it, even with the track record, I think Ubisoft got just as good a chance as anyone else to make a great free-to-play game.
Sure, I think, I mean, they've tasted success, like I said, with Siege. They haven't quite gotten to like Fortnite numbers or anything like that, but
you can't say why. You can't go, it's only because of X, Y, and Z. There's no reason why it failed, really, other than it's just people didn't play it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see though, like how they sort of step forward. But at the moment, like internally, I've not seen I've not seen evidence of them like just killing franchises and just switching like completely over to free to play. That's not what I've witnessed anyway. But I'm
just
not
tearing down statues of
right, exactly. Of like Ezio is like in the dumpster upside down or whatever. Yeah. Stuff like that. No, I mean it's sort of ludicrous that people sort of think that. So yeah, it's still a while off, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to find out. And how much of a part it's going to play in E3, do we think?
Probably a big part, I guess, but I think they've got to look at their audience about who's actually going to be watching E3.
Like kids going to watch E3? Is it
all that 70%. Right, exactly. Yeah, because I think the majority of E3 watchers are the people that want them AAA games. You know, they're not the 70% of the free-to-play market. But at the same time, E3 isn't just for gamers. It's also for the stockholders. And they want the free-to-play games because they want to make money. So it makes sense. So it'll be interesting to see how they play it. Because I can imagine there's going to be a lot more free-to-play stuff at this E3, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. We've just got to learn how to pass it out if you're not into that sort of stuff, or just learn how to deal with it, because it's just, unfortunately, it is a part of the industry, and it's a big part of the industry now.